Thank you. Yum. Yum. They asked for nothing. No wages, no contracts, no complaints. Just sweat, dirt, calloused hands, and thousands of hearts in unity. On a seemingly ordinary morning in Burkina Faso, more than 20,000 women from all over the villages left their homes. They brought hoes, shovels, baskets of stones, and started building roads for their own country. Not because the government forced them. Not because of money, but because of something bigger than material things. Faith. Faith in a future. They are laying the first brick. Faith in a young man named Ibrahim Traoré. He is turning faith into real paths. If you were a mother among the thousands of people out there digging the ground, what would you teach your children about pride? But this is just the beginning. What is really behind this historical mobilization? Who planted the seeds of this unprecedented movement? Just a few months ago, this idea was considered crazy. Women building roads. Many people laughed. No machines, no money. How can it be done? But then the unthinkable happened. In April 2025, the Burkina Faso government announced an unprecedented campaign. The People's Road, built by the people. No contractors, no loans from the IMF, no commitments with foreign organizations. Just a map, plans for each section of the road, and a call for volunteerization. Spreading across the country. The first person to respond was not a businessman, but an old woman over 70 years old from the Kaya region. She said only one sentence: I don't have the strength to hoe anymore, but I can boil water for others to hoe. That sentence was broadcast on national radio, and within just 2 weeks over 20,000 women had signed up. No one paid, no one forced. The government only supported materials. The rest people organized themselves, divided the work themselves, monitored each other. They didn't need money. All they needed was the belief that every road built today will make it easier for their children to go to school tomorrow. If you were one of those people, what more would you need than pride? But behind the number 20,000, there was a bigger strategy, a plan that few people know about, but is making the whole world watch closely. If you ask one of these 20,000 women why they leave their villages, their fields, their children, and go out into the heat with hoes and shovels, you will not get a political answer. They do not talk about the government. They do not talk about the benefits. They will say we do it because if we do not start with ourselves, who else will? The amazing thing is not that they work for free. It is that they do it voluntarily and with pride. For decades, rural women in Burkina Faso have been considered on the margins of development. Roads to their communities are often neglected, forcing them to travel hours to reach hospitals, schools, or wholesale markets. For them, a road is more than a means of transportation. It is a way of life, a survival, a future. When Ibrahim Traoré launched the national infrastructure self-reliance, he did not issue a command. He sent a call. Not through television, not through hard slogans. He used his own network of women village chiefs, rural teachers, and small religious groups to deliver a message. If we don't build our own future, who will? Remarkably, many of the women involved in the campaign were Christians and Muslims. But they knelt together in prayer each morning before they started digging, a rarity in the past. In the scorching heat, their faith did not divide them. It united them. This wasn't a public interest movement. This was a silent declaration by African women that they were not waiting to be rescued. They were saving themselves and their countries. If a woman can step into the sun with bare feet and build roads for the next generation, who do you think is the real leader? But don't be so emotional. There is a deeper layer to this story where women are not just digging, but digging into the consciousness of an awakening society. One of the most surprising effects of the campaign is not the roles that are being built, but the way the young generation sees them. When a child sees his mother, his aunt, or his sister working in the sun and pouring stones to build a road, he no longer sees women as dependent. He sees a builder, a leader, a role model in areas like Tapoa, Bulu, Muhan, or Bobola. So many schools have started organizing field lessons where students observe teams of women working. Many write in their diaries about my mother built the first road in our Village, and this is no longer a symbolic image but a living reality. Foreign notes were initially skeptical, with one article even suggesting that this was forced labor disguised as freedom. But then they were silenced when hundreds of videos went viral from the people themselves showing women singing, praying, eating together on the side of the road. No one running away, no one being forced. What is worth thinking about is how this campaign turns the usual image of nation building upside down. In many developing countries, when people think of infrastructure, they think of Chinese corporations, big machines, millions of dollars in funding. But here, women in traditional dress, using their hands and their faith, are creating something that money can buy. Self-reliance. They are not just building roads. They are rebuilding trust in themselves, in their communities, and in a leader who doesn't make empty promises but acts on every inch of the road. Do you think a nation can be revived with just a pick, a shovel, and patriotism? Or does it take more to believe it? But the real impact of this campaign goes beyond inspiration. It's spilling over into something else, a ripple effect called hope, which we'll see more about in the next section. In the village of Yalgo, one of the most remote areas in northern Burkina Faso, people used to have to walk more than 15 kilometers to reach the nearest health station. But just 10 days after the women's group started building the road, the first ambulance passed through the village without getting stuck in the mud. It was a day when people burst into tears. At the primary school in Gurma, the principal shared that attendance had increased by nearly 30% in just 2 weeks. The reason was not because the school had changed its curriculum, but because the road to school was now smoother, safer, and less muddy. Meanwhile, volunteer teachers began combining the civic education program with practical activities, having students plant trees by the roadside, draw handmade signs, and make propaganda videos about traffic safety. This makes road building no longer an adult affair, but a social lesson for the whole population. It is worth noting that no official media costs were spent. All the videos and images that spread across social networks came from people who filmed and posted them themselves. Many clips were filmed with old phones. Their voices were shaky. Their breathing was rapid. But their eyes were always bright. Bright because they knew history was happening right under their feet. Local media did not report on orders from above but went to groups of women to tell their stories. From Ouagadougou to Banora, small radio stations spread the word. If you have not walked the path of women, you have not walked the new path of this country. If a country was built by ordinary people, would you still call them ordinary people? But the story does not stop within the borders of Burkina Faso. Roads don't just connect villages. They connect hearts beyond geographical boundaries. And that's what we'll explore in the next section. The movement's reach did not stop at Burkina Faso's borders. From Ghana to Senegal to Rwanda, independent journalists began reporting on the silent uprising of Sahel women. In international forums, the talk was no longer about numbers, but about spirit. How could one of the world's poorest countries create such a massive movement without spending a single dollar in aid? The initial reaction from Western organizations was bewilderment. Many international development agencies, accustomed to the top-down model, were surprised by the mass-scale grassroots organizing. There was no funding, no monitoring, no planning, and yet it all worked effectively. At EOS headquarters in Abuja, a leaked internal memo expressed concerns about the model, for if the people of Burkina Faso could organize themselves for development without the need for coalition structures, would other countries follow suit? In Burkina Faso, President Traoré's image has never been propagandized through posters or festivals. However, more and more people have begun to hand-paint his portrait on their walls with the words, "You didn't build roads. You made us believe we could build them ourselves." This is an important transformation. The image of leadership is no longer associated with imposing power, but with the power to awaken national potential. Traoré does not make women heroes. They have always been that way. He only fanned the flames that society had forgotten. The ripple effect is starting to take shape. A group of young people in Guinea publicly wrote to the government asking to learn From Burkina Faso's women building roads. Autonomous communities model. In and Mali, civil society groups are holding online workshops to share their experiences. A quiet awakening is spreading. If change starts with one person, then spreads to 10, then 10,000. How many people do we need to call it a movement? But something bigger is happening. Something that even the government could not have foreseen. When the spirit of self-reliance meets the right moment, it creates an irreversible turning point. And that is the foundation of the next section. From the very beginning of the campaign, Traoré did not see road construction as a short-term project. For him, it was the first step in a series of comprehensive self-reliance strategies: infrastructure, education, energy, agriculture. Each road open was not just for vehicles to run, but was a link connecting the broken links of the country. Village to village, people to government, producers to markets, children to schools, and women to the right to determine their own future. Traoré understood clearly, if the country relied solely on international aid, it would forever be led astray. But if the people learned to build themselves, they would be the contractors of the nation's destiny. Therefore, the government did not stop at encouraging road construction in areas with new roads. A series of community infrastructure schools models were deployed. This is where women learned how to mix cement, how to build drainage, how to calculate slopes, and even knowledge about labor safety. Many people who initially only knew how to dig the ground can now participate in managing construction teams, instructing new people, and even start dreaming of becoming construction engineers. A special program quietly piloted by the Ministry of Education is called Connecting Infrastructure Rebuilding Awareness. Accordingly, secondary school students in 11 provinces will be taught an integrated combination of basic infrastructure, engineering, civic skills, and national construction history, all associated with the women building roads model. Roads, therefore, are not only connecting geographically, but are leading a new journey of awareness. If you grew up on the same road your mother used to pour stones on, how would you feel walking on it? But that's not all, because when the people's hearts were opened, Traoré continued to open another door where land was not only an asset but a reward for dedication. One of the policies that most shocked the international community was President Ibrahim Traoré signing a decree allowing long-term agricultural land use rights to all women who participated in the road construction campaign. Specifically, each person is entitled to register to use a plot of land from 0.5 to 2 hectares near the area where they worked. These plots of land were previously unused or abandoned due to lack of connecting infrastructure. And now, thanks to their own hands, the land can come back to life. The government went further when announcing 3-year tax exemption for any agricultural or livestock production activities on these plots. Priority support for plant varieties, water pumps, and well digging in areas that have just been connected by new roads, and especially including the program Women Owning Land in the civics curriculum at the secondary level. With this policy, women are no longer mobilized by recipients of concrete, measurable power. They do not just build infrastructure. They own their own outcomes. In Burkina Faso, where women traditionally have little right to inherit or own land, this is a quiet revolution. It changes the way families view the role of mothers, the way communities respect women's contributions, and most importantly, the way young people view gender equality. This is not just a development policy. It is a re-architecting of the relationship between the state, the people, and Mother Earth, commented the Malian professor in the New Africa Journal. The roads women create do not just get cars rolling. They get social ideas moving. And once ideas are moving, nothing can hold them back. Do you think one rural woman can change a country? If one is not enough, what about 20,000? But just as Burkina Faso was entering the golden period of consensus, a surprising piece of information leaked, a big twist, causing everyone to stop and ask the question, does the world really want Africa to be autonomous? In July 2025, as the first roads were completed and videos of the women singing while dumping rocks went viral across Africa, a leaked internal report from a United Nations Agency caused a stir. In the report, experts warned that the spontaneous mobilization of human resources in Burkina Faso, if left unchecked, could lead to anti-A trends and threaten the intermediary role of international organizations in the Sahel. In other words, the world was not happy with Burkina Faso standing on its own 2 feet. Just days later, 3 major development organizations announced that they were suspending technical assistance to water and health projects in Burkina Faso, citing lack of transparency in the management of community human resources. Several European countries expressed concern that allowing women to work outdoors in harsh conditions could violate labor rights. An international human rights organization even said that Traoré's government was turning poverty into a political propaganda tool. The people of the Burkina Faso were not silent. The next day, thousands of people, mostly women, organized mass prayers, peaceful protests, and painted slogans with charcoal. We are not forced. We choose freedom. Without them, we would have no roads. This is our land. Don't tell us how to love it. Traoré did not hold a press conference. He wrote a single line on the national social network. When a mother cooks her rice with wood, someone says she is doing it wrong. When she uses a gas stove, people say she is dependent, but no one asks how long has she been hungry. A few days later, the Burkina Faso government signed a historic decree. The People's Reconstruction Fund 100% from domestic resources. No IMF loans, no US side, no foreign experts, just the people and faith. In churches and chapels, people began praying with the new phrase, Lord, help me rebuild the land you gave me with your own hands. The FAR did not believe that a small, resource-poor country, once ranked near the bottom of the development index, could refuse billions of dollars in aid. But that is what made it extraordinary. When you have the people, you have everything and more. 2 months after that U-turn, Ghana announced that it would follow the Burkina Faso model. Niger and Mali agreed to sign a joint memorandum on development without aid. A new people's coalition was quietly taking shape, not through policy, but through widespread faith. If the world turns its back on you when you choose to stand up for yourself, will you bow your head in apology or move on and let them be surprised? But after all, what is left? Is miracle real when it is built on sweat and faith? The answer lies in the ending where emotion, education, and faith converge. When God said, "Be fruitful and subdue the land," he was not speaking to men alone, to rulers, or to the rich. He was speaking to everyone, even to the women who held hoes in the Sahel sun. Their hands trembling but their eyes steady. They did not build roads just to walk. They rebuilt the core of self-respect. They turned wasteland into roads, roads into faith, and faith into actions that silenced the world. Their children who once had to wade through mud to get to school, now walk on the very roads their mothers used to dig. They learn not just from books but from the lives of their mothers, sisters, and the whole community. That is through education. Education by example. And you, the one watching this video, what do you think? If you were that mother, what lesson would you leave to your children? If you were a witness, how would you tell this story in 10 years? Rewriting history can start with a comment, and you are the one who wrote the first sentence. Leave your comments below. What do you think of this model? Of how a country dares to stand up for itself against all odds?